looked around to see if anyone had noticed. So far the bar looked quiet, the red lights from inside spilling through the falling rain. The street was equally quiet and lined with Audis and Mercedes that stuck out like gaudy jewelry among the decrepit meatpacking buildings. My own car, which I reluctantly called Jose, was parked 2 blocks away. I may have underestimated the situation, but I was glad I still had my wits about me. When an old friend emails you out of the blue and asks you to meet him at a sketchy bar late at night, you do take some precautions. It's too bad I hadn't clued in that it wasn't an old lover of mine, but Sergei out for revenge. I took advantage of not being seen and ran as fast as I could down the street, my footsteps echoing coldly. By the time I rounded the corner and saw the dark green 1970 GTO sitting on the empty street, the rain had washed the mud clean off of me. I wiped my wet hair from my eyes and stared at the glistening Ohio license plate. It was time for that to come off, and I mentally flipped through the spare plates I had inside. I knew I'd never set foot in Cincinnati again after this, and now that I knew this had been a setup, I couldn't be sure they hadn't noticed my car. I had a wad of Sergei's money, which I'd been keeping strapped to the bottom of the driver's seat, and apparently he was the type who'd follow up on that kind of thing. He was the type that would hunt me down. I should have figured that from our email exchanges. This wouldn't even be about the money anymore, but the fact that I pulled a fast one on him. But what do you expect when you're trolling for virgin brides on OkCupid? Men and their stupid pride. I suppose he could try and hunt me down. He could try and follow me from state to state, but I knew as soon as I got in Jose, he wouldn't be able to find me. I'd been hunted before, and for a lot more than money. And they still hadn't found me. Yet. Hearing distant but irate voices filling the air, I quickly opened the door and hopped in. My instincts told me to just drive and never look back, and unfortunately, I knew I had to listen. I had to leave my pretty apartment, my safe coffee shop job, and my yoga-infused roommate Carly behind. It was a shame, too. After living with Carly for 6 months, the flexible little thing had actually grown on me. I'll mail her something nice, I told myself, and gunned the engine. Jose purred to life, and we shot down the street, away from the bar and from Sergei and his buddies who were now probably scouring the streets looking for me. It didn't matter. I was used to running, and always kept a spare life in the trunk. Spare clothes, spare driver's licenses, spare social security numbers, and a spare tire. As soon as I felt like I was a comfortable distance away, I'd pull into a motel under a new name. I'd change the plates on my car. Yes, Jose wasn't the most inconspicuous of vehicles, but I was sentimental about the car. After all, it wasn't even mine. Then tomorrow I'd figure out my budget, figure out how long I could go before I needed a legitimate job, figure out that moment when I'd have to stay true to my word and make sure that this truly was the last time. I careened around a corner, then slowed as the car disappeared into traffic heading across the Ohio River. With my free hand, I opened my wallet and went through my spare IDs. Now that I was going to go legit, I didn't have much of a choice. I took out the California license that said Ellie Watt. I'd need to change the expiration date and photo, since the last time I set foot in the state was 7 years ago, just after I turned 19. But it would do. I was Ellie Watt again. I was finally me. Oh joy. Chapter 1. Then. The girl was lying down in the back seat of her parents' rusting station wagon, counting down the minutes as she stared up at the green water spots on the roof. If she had a cell phone, keeping track of time would have been a lot easier, especially since the girl still struggled with math. Of course, you could blame her mother for that. You could blame her for a lot of things, since the girl had been homeschooled her whole life. Division and multiplication were about as advanced as things got for the 11-year-old. But, according to her mother, you only needed to be able to count in order to succeed in grifting, and at that moment, the girl was counting away. It had been 4 minutes since her parents left the car and walked up, arm in arm, toward the cold lights that emanated from the sprawling house. The girl had no idea where they were, except that they were still in Mississippi. She could smell the swamps. The man they were visiting was supposed to be an old friend of her mother's, but the girl wasn't too sure about that. She had heard her mother screaming something about this Travis man from time to time, and her anger had done nothing except build over the last few weeks.